I always start talking about something, even when I shouldn't be talking. In fact, I get yelled at all the time for talking when I'm not supposed to be talking. What's one crazy idea project that never panned out? I don't know.
Well, I guess there's quite a few, actually.
A crazy project.
Well, crazy, I don't know.
Or crazy. Idea.
Everything's pretty
I'm assuming we're talking about headphones and not like life in general.
Probably headphones.
Yeah. We could have a dump truck full of that. If we
dump truck,
things that didn't pan out in life.
Well, it depends how far you want to go, I guess. I don't know which one to talk about this stuff.
I always wanted to be a rocket scientist. That didn't pan out.
There's so many things that didn't work at all. But you remember in the really early days when we were doing 1266, the different driver technologies we attempted and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's one.
And that I don't think is as interesting.
Yeah.
But remember 1266 originally was closed back.
Yeah, the first one was.
It was closed back.
Carbon fiber. Yeah, that didn't work.
Oh man,
Nobody knows
I
that.
should get that thing. Should I get that carbon fiber thing? That's really early.
That was after. No, we had the wood one first.
Oh yeah. Was the fiber for Diana?
No, that was like a third generation 1266 closed.
It was like 2009, maybe 8.
Oh.
No, originally I did the laser wood one.
That was pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't great.
No. Neither of them were.
Yeah, it was diffuse wood thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Oh right.
That was short-lived.
Yeah.
It was abandoned like immediately.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was some fiddling for a few weeks, and then.
What the hell made us try to close back anyway first? And that wasn't first, right? It was just something we did.
It was intended to be an optional accessory.
Oh right.
Right.
Yeah. Initially, we figured we could make all kinds of bolt-on things, change the sound with different acoustic patterns.
But
and stuff
that
like
was actually done before.
It wasn't really a good goal.
It was actually done before the open back was. We didn't have the foamed aluminum mounting thing.
Yeah, everything sounded like wood.
Yeah.
Right? You know, the initial designs were like, this isn't going to work.
They were changing the thickness. And
all you heard was the inside of the headphone.
Yeah,
but we tried dozens of different woods and different diffusion patterns.
It was cool to see how the different woods sounded.
We still have all those woods back
there. They were all like rare earth woods.
I had a design that was like an inch and a half deep. That was okay. But
yeah, I remember trying to find those blocks of wood. I was going to a local wood store just to see what they had, and they had purple hard. I mean, to find stuff thick is not easy. It's, the rare woods
to find weird woods in the right dimensions can be tricky sometimes.
And in the end, it's like, can you consistently source that stuff?
Probably not. Yeah. That's a big issue.
Yeah, so we're like, this isn't the way to go.
And then like screws threading in the wood. It was like a whole thing.
Right.
We were stripping them. And
in fact, other companies have done that and had trouble with it, which I don't think we were even familiar with at the time. We just abandoned it before we ran into our own problems.
Yeah, we wanted to put like threaded inserts in and everything.
If we can strip it, just not without even trying, I don't think we want to put that out there. So anyway, that was. I can't think of anything else though. Can you here? I mean, in making the headphone, because everything we've done is pretty much. We focused on a project and we did it to completion.
For the most part, the things
there were
that
steps in
seemed
between
obvious.
that were probably failures. Like what else?
Well, you remember the first Diana?
Kinda.
It was made like a year after 1266.
Oh yeah.
The little one.
And it had just straight lines of holes. There was no pattern to it. And
straight lines of holes. What?
No, before that.
No.
We made like a really small one, like.
Yeah, it was 1.25 inch diameter.
Oh yeah, on here.
Yeah.
It would have been like really light.
Yeah.
That never worked out.
No.
Oh yeah, you made a plastic assembly to hold some bar magnets just for prototyping, right? Yeah.
Still has it.
I still like to do an on-ear, a little tiny on-ear, but they just don't seem popular. People seems like in the high end go on-ears, and it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think it'd be that hard. You just got to adapt the ear pad material to make a better seal on your ear type thing. I think you could do it, but I don't think it'd be too popular. You got the whole clamping force issue, and everyone's got different sensitivities to ears. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent.
Well, that little one, I think the biggest problem was impedance, right? That was like
there was a lot of problems with that.
Like we just couldn't get the efficiency.
That much trace pattern
the
there,
efficiency.
So it was low. It was like 6 ohms.
Maybe even less.
Now you need a speaker amp for that.
So
maybe there's a market there. Everyone's trying to plug our big ones in the speaker amp.
It wasn't the right mix. You just you need more surface area than that to get the sensitivity and the impedance in the right range for portable use.
Oh, I mean, we could redesign the whole assembly, but it doesn't work for our driver style.
Right.
That's something that's small, and that's what we learned by doing it. Something that's small is more devoted to a typical dynamic speaker.
Yeah.
You can throw those in any shape. any size really, any small size, just get a simple dynamic, but of course it'll sound like doggy doo-doo.
But because of things like that, that's how we were able, in some extent, to design products that are successful, right? The failures, they teach you a lot more than the success, I think, because when you have something and it works, you don't really necessarily always know how or why it worked. All you know is that the end result was positive. It's like stealing somebody else's work, right? So you got the result, great, but you don't know how they arrived at it, per se. You don't know the challenges that they encountered. You don't know what went wrong or what they had to overcome. And when you're the one that sees the failure, you tend to understand precisely what went into it, why it didn't work, the challenges that you didn't expect coming into it, and these sorts of things. And when you redesign something, when you go forward, you can mitigate these things, hopefully, or you can minimize the impact of them. And that's really important, I think. So there's a lot of times we had things that failed that just didn't work. Over the course of the 1266 design, I mean, we've talked about this before in one of our other videos, but I think we had like 5 evolutions of the frame and driver technology on 1266, and that was before we shipped one. Right. And so this was all internal.
Well, there's probably more than that total, but
I would say
you're thinking
considerable
overall
numbers.
finished, throw it on your head type.
It worked.
Let's try this. Yeah, right.
But the number of times we changed the driver was crazy.
Yeah,
we went through everything.
Yeah, that was nuts.
But in terms of things, it's like you look at it and
Well,
be
like we
like,
said
wow,
before,
that's
we had to
different.
bring the driver in-house to be able to bring the tech in-house to be able to make drivers here and be able to adjust things on the fly, because there's just no way to pay somebody to make that many iterations of drivers to get it right, you know? And it's paid off to be able to do that, because now we can make drivers at will and adjust for different acoustics and so on with the new headphones or whatever.
Yeah, very quick.
It makes it a lot easier to, well, it's not so quick, right? You're still playing with the new design now.
Yeah.
It's been a couple weeks, so it's not so quick.
No, what I mean, relatively quick.
Yeah, well, okay, relatively. You're right.
Yeah.
It's not a year and a half.
No.
Everything else takes a year and a half.
Yeah.
If the finished product takes a while, you're talking everything right through, straight through, ear pads, packaging. I mean, there's a lot of, even though just to wrap up a product and get it ready to ship.
It could be months.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You could have a done product ready to go.
For some things
months.
like packaging and so on, you're waiting for vendors and stuff like that. That's something we don't make. We don't make our own boxes.
Yeah.
So it's true. You'd think that we could concurrently get all that ready, but technically you tend to need photography in order to get a box made, depending on what kind of box you're making.
So you need to.
So you kind of got to have a finished product, or at
Yeah.
least finished enough. So you don't want to print boxes 3 times.
But I mean, through all the lines, I mean, we've done hundreds of driver revisions at this point. So now we don't need to do as many to get to. I mean, you already kind of know where you are.
Yeah, we've
so
narrowed
any kind of change.
Yeah, so really all the driver failures
Yeah.
are what you'd say didn't work out
Yeah.
to what we were after.
Yeah.
Which probably would be fine for most.
Yeah.
But what we were after, those led up to where we are now.
Well, now the differences between them are getting smaller.
Yeah.
So there's not as many of them.
Yeah.
And the difference is very small.
Well, we're throwing it back at the electronics. So now we've come back to saying, okay, now we need to find better amplifiers, better source material, and to show off or showcase what our drivers can do. So the electronics, I think, are more the limitation. The other thing I thought of I think a failure was the measurements. When we were a good portion into already the headphone being designed, and we decided to get some software, the dummy head, the blah blah blah, and learn how to use.
That took a while.
Learn how to use a binaural and stuff. Learn how to measure this thing we were creating.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember chasing that when we were doing the backside with the foamed aluminum stuff, and I was chasing ghosts with the waterfall plot.
Yeah.
It showed spikes that weren't really there. They were just acoustic spikes. They weren't audible.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to adjust it out with designs, with gasket materials, with stuff. And I'm running, I'm spending days with this thing going.
Yeah.
And you start to realize, you start to figure out that it's just kind of like a ghost image. It's there. The mic's picking it up, but it's not an audible. It's not something you got to worry about.
A few days ago, we made headphones that sounded like they have no bass, measure flat.
Oh, yeah,
We
right.
made headphones that sound like they got just absolute truckloads of bass. They measure flat.
Right.
Yeah.
The measurements are the same
Right.
in the bass region.
Yeah, right.
But it sounds totally different. So the way you perceive it is totally different. There's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah, when you measure and it rolls below 20 hertz, you're at 15 or 10 flat. You
Right.
should be able to play anything. There's no music down
Well,
there.
yeah. Well,
not the stuff we're listening to. Most
not,
of the
not
bass,
that you could hear.
Most of the bass is in the 40, 50 hertz range or so. You don't get a lot even in 20 and 30.
Mm-hmm.
But even testing it down there, yeah, you're right. It measures flat,
Right.
but one one is perceived as having more bass than another.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hear it. So
it's
what's the
easier
difference?
to use your ears.
Yeah, it's way easier, especially at this level where
we talked about this in another video as well, but
Yeah.
I thought the measurement would be helpful to be able to fine-tune those little minor things that you can't guarantee you're mitigating your internal biases for, but it just really doesn't seem to matter.
No.
It really doesn't seem to help. There's benefit to it, absolutely. I'm not disputing that, but it doesn't seem to be the final word like it maybe people think it is. People think, well, if you could just get something to measure flat, you have the perfect headphone. You really don't. It's a lot more involved than that.
You can use it if you look at like the distortion plot. It might help to pick out certain flaws or something like that, or resonances that you're not,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But,
absolutely.
it helps.
Yeah, it's
But
beneficial.
if you know
but
how to get rid of it. I mean,
Well, yeah.
some things it is what it is. It's
you could get
you
rid of
know.
these things with dampening a lot of times, but it
Yeah.
perceives the sound is going to be worse.
right. Yeah, you change one thing, you affect more than one.
A lot of times you have a negative
You
impact
affect
on
another.
fixing these things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that in the measurement video way back.
I think that is the biggest thing is, you could fix something in the measurements, but something else is
Yeah,
definitely
you're going to cause a
affected.
problem somewhere else.
We ran
Yeah.
into that a lot in the early days where we're
Yeah.
trying to, account for something.
And that's the thing, like if you have something that's a little bit of excess energy somewhere and you're trying to get rid of that excess energy,
Yeah.
you're also eliminating energy in other frequency bands. Now you have a void there, which, okay, maybe isn't sticking out as much to people, right? You're not going to measure a peak somewhere. You basically don't. You're missing information somewhere, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really that missing information doesn't really pan out in the measurements. So, and that's something we learned by doing it. We learned by doing it for a very long time, and trying to correlate the objective measurement with the subjective listening, and
Yep.
it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
It's a strange perspective because when you look at other people that have measurement rigs, that this is what they do. They measure headphones, and to them, this is very important that the headphone measures a certain way. That's fine. I don't dispute that. The headphones should measure a certain way if you're using them for some sort of reference thing. If you're using them to master, it makes sense that you're not going to have some massively exaggerated sounding headphones, and maybe you don't trust yourself. Maybe you want some sort of proof or something like that. Maybe you have your pick of the crop with headphones. So I could see how the measurements in that case might be beneficial, but it's very different as a tool for designing a headphone. It really doesn't have the benefit that you might think it would. It's just,
yeah, no.
it's very trivial.
And on a consumer level, it is not going to tell you anything. You
No,
really
not
just got to
really.
listen to it on the right gear.
It doesn't tell you if the headphones
You
are going to
know,
be enjoyable to you.
You can't tell how it's going to sound. You can't.
Right.
You just can't. So anyway, that is something we learned, that measurements were somewhat of a bummer or a failure in terms of how they can help us.
They're a tool.
They're a tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to know how to use the
It's like a
tool.
hammer,
Yeah.
right? You got to know how to swing it.
Yeah.
You got to hit the damn thing square on the nail square, and otherwise it's going to bounce or bend, right? So yeah, it's a tool that you use and to reach an end goal. Yeah.
Sure.
They're important in a lot of aspects. I know speaker manufacturers use them a lot, but they're dealing more with phase issues and timing issues than we are. We've got a single drive. We got it easy.
Yeah,
We
kind
have a
of.
no crossover single driver, flat phase,
Yeah.
flat impedance. We don't have to worry about that stuff.
Mhm.
But then again, we designed it that way. That was the beauty of it.
That's the idea, right?
That was the idea. Avoid these pitfalls, which, again, is something we've learned way back from speaker design and stuff. Is like, we don't want to crossover. We don't want multi-pole drivers. We just don't really. We really want to try to avoid that, and you learn that from experience too.
Well, I guess going through all these things, the failures, and the trials and tribulations, has helped us to develop the end products we have today. So I guess it was good. I mean,
Yeah.
You know,
there's thousands of
it took
things.
a long time.
So many little things that it just doesn't come to your head because it's like walking. It's like you don't remember every step you took. You know what I mean? You do remember if you tripped and hit your head on the ground, but you don't really. So there was a lot of steps we took, and
Yeah.
we hate. I guess the bottom line is I don't mind talking about failure. It just seems like we're really good at blocking it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, it's always on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. We just kind of you don't look in the rearview mirror on that kind of stuff.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I don't really have like a catalog of things that don't work out because
Yeah.
in hindsight, they tend to have been useful. They're a learning experience most of the time. It's very uncommon to do something, invest some time into it, and then period of time later, 6 months, a year later, when the thing actually is working, look back and have you say that this was ridiculous, this was stupid, this was a total waste of time, I learned absolutely nothing from it, it was useless. That's pretty uncommon. Most of the time you figure something out,
Yeah.
even if it was trivial. But it's a lot of times the only way you could really learn these things. So
Well, that, and we got a pretty good sized dumpster in the back. So
that too.
failures,
Right.
next.
That's where they go.
There is a bin of
Well,
them.
they start in a recycler, right? If it's aluminum, they got to go into 55-gallon drums. All the aluminum shavings
Yeah.
go in, and then we have solid aluminum and then
Yeah.
leftovers from others. So we recycle what we can. Otherwise, failure dumpster. There's a lot of wood chunks we threw out
Failure
over
dumpster.
time and stuff like that in the past. You know?
Not lately, though.
Not lately. I haven't played with wood in a while.
Okay, I think we're getting a little random.
Okay, yeah,
should
we're
wrap
good.
it
So
up.
let's wrap it up. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, it's all it's your turn.
So let us know what you thought about that in the comments below. Let us know if you have any ideas for episode in the future, and give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Stay subscribed to see more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.